Hi everyone. In this video we are going to be talking about tissue injury and repair. This video will give us a basic overview of normal tissue healing, which is really important to understand, but we will go into more tissue specific healing at a later stage. This information will build on the knowledge you have developed around cell biology, homeostasis and immunology. We are going to start today with a story. One lovely, hot summer's day, you're walking down the road and you see a friend. What you don't see is the tree that's right in front of you that you smash into with your arm. Today we are going to talk specifically about the breakage of skin to illustrate tissue healing. But be aware that other tissues break, fail, tear, rupture, and a similar process often occurs. Let's look at the process of tissue healing. Just below the skin you have blood vessels. You will remember that the circulatory system contains various types of blood vessel, including arteries, arterioles, capillaries, venules and veins. In addition, one thing to mention about capillaries and venules is that they are one cell thick, an endothelial cell, and this is important when we discuss the healing process. We also have connective tissue and an epithelial layer, also called the epidermis or dermis. Don't forget to mention the fluid that bathes a lot of the cells in and around tissues. This is called interstitial fluid and plays an important role in the transport of oxygen and nutrients in and out of cells. Now let's consider the injury. The skin's been broken and a superficial layer of damage has been caused. But be aware that different mechanisms of injury may result in different structures and different patterns of tissue damage being seen. In this example, we would firstly notice that the wound starts bleeding. The body's natural response to this is to try and limit the blood loss. It does this in two ways. It will start to try and coagulate the blood through something within the blood called platelets, and hopefully this will form a plug to stop further blood loss. In addition to this, we also have a process of vasoconstriction, where the body tries to limit the amount of blood going to that affected area. By sealing the wound, the body is attempting to protect itself from pathogens or germs and start the inflammatory process. The clot is held together by a protein that is found within the blood called fibrin. Once through the initial bleeding phase, the cells around that area are starting to release substances. And these substances we term inflammation. Clinically, this presents as heat, redness, pain and swelling. The question is how? We have a few cells in our tissues that assist with this process. Firstly, mast cells. These cells release a substance called histamine. You might recognize the term histamine if you have hay fever, as you might take antihistamines. What histamine does is it binds to receptors on the endothelial cells of the capillary, and these receptors induce a contraction response that causes gaps to open up within the endothelial cells. So each endothelial cell has a receptor for the histamine, and once the histamine attaches, it results in gaps opening up between the single layer of blood vessel cell. What this enables is increased products to come into the tissues. This term is called increased vascular permeability and is associated with clinically effused or swollen areas. Some of the substances that come into that area are white blood cells that are found within the bloodstream. Two key ones are neutrophils and macrophages. There is also a vasodilatory response as a result of the histamine that causes the blood vessels to open up. Alongside this vasodilatory response that causes heat and redness clinically, we also see pain being caused. One of the reasons we experience pain is because of the synthesis of a substance called prostaglandin. These substances, together with damaged nerve endings, contribute towards perception of pain by patients. Due to the breakage in skin, the white blood cells get sent into that area. They deal with the issue and prevent secondary spread of infection. Another type of cell that's important to mention here is the dendritic cell. This particular cell becomes activated and enables the immune response to kick in by sending messengers and signaling to other cells to come into that area. These messengers are called chemokines or cytokines. They're telling the body that there's an injury here and with the types of cells to send to that area. The inflammatory process takes around about 2 to 3 days, and it obviously starts earlier on than that, probably a few hours. Following all these messengers is another type of cell that is proliferated towards the area. That is termed the fibroblast. The other thing that happens through the proliferation phase is that we see endothelial cells starting to generate. The fibroblasts initially begin to lay down a fiber that's found in our bodies called collagen. These fibers are laid down in rather a loose structure initially and contain something called ground substance. Ground substance is a gel-like mix of glycoproteins and proteoglycans. These fill the gaps between cells and fibers. The combination of ground substance together with the fibers that the fibroblasts have laid down gives rise to a substance or a term that's called the extracellular matrix. This process of laying down the extracellular matrix is called fibroplasia. A couple of things to note here. Collagen production is dependent on blood supply and oxygenation. Alongside the extracellular matrix, new blood vessels are also formed, and that process is called angiogenesis, which is shown there by the red star. One other cell to mention here is the myofibroblast, which is a differentiated macrophage. The numbers of myofibroblast determine how the tissue heals. Excessive numbers of myofibroblasts cause contractures. Insufficient numbers of myofibroblasts cause an unstable or unfunctional wound tissue. The proliferation phase can last up to about 3 weeks long, and often is associated with weaker type 3 collagen tissue alongside the other components of the extracellular matrix. After the extracellular matrix has been laid down, a process of remodeling occurs, whereby the tissue is attempted to return back to normal. As the majority of your body is about 90% type 1 collagen, our job as healthcare professionals is to optimize the process of returning type 3 collagen to type 1 collagen. Some tissues are dense, like tendons, and as remodeling begins, the collagen orientates itself to the lines of mechanical stress. Over time, increased crosslinks are made between collagen fibers along the lines of stress and strain. The reabsorption of type 3 collagen continues under the guidance of a substance called matrix metalloproteinases and also tissue inhibitor matrix metalloproteinases. These substances, MMTPs and TIMPs, alongside the stress and the strain, enable the tissue to return close to normal levels, and hopefully a functional result is derived.